You might think someone's indifference means disinterest, but that's exactly what makes this next insight shocking. There are moments when desire hides in plain sight, and the signs are subtle, almost invisible if you don't know where to look. The truth is, craving isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers in the way attention lingers a second too long, in the way curiosity seems persistent, or in gestures so small you almost dismiss them. But once you recognize them, everything changes. If you're watching this, pause for a moment and think of someone you've noticed acting in these ways. Then comment below which behavior surprised you most. This is about seeing what's hidden in plain sight. Microgestures are perhaps the most telling and yet most overlooked indicators of hidden desire, the tiny, often unconscious movements that reveal what someone feels but cannot or will not say. These are not the big, obvious signs like flirting overtly or declaring interest. They are subtle shifts in posture, fleeting touches, or changes in eye contact that happen almost below awareness. When someone is drawn to you, their body naturally responds in ways that mirror attraction, leaning slightly forward when you speak, orienting their body toward you even in a group setting, or angling their head as if listening more closely than anyone else in the room. Their hands may unconsciously brush against objects near you, or they may adjust their clothing or hair in a way that reflects a subconscious desire to be noticed. Even the way someone's pupils dilate when they look at you, the slight quickening of breath, or the small smile that lingers a moment longer than usual, these are all micro gestures that communicate craving without words. The fascinating thing about micro gestures is that they often occur before the mind even fully recognizes the attraction. The body is responding instinctively to what the brain is drawn to. For instance, if you notice that someone's feet point toward you while the rest of their body is engaged elsewhere, or that they subtly mirror your movements, leaning when you lean or tilting their head when you do, these are not accidents. They are signs of unconscious engagement. People who secretly crave connection are often hyper aware of subtle nonverbal feedback, and they send it themselves, almost like a magnet attracting attention to the object of desire. Even small, fleeting touches, brushing your arm while handing you something, or a lingering hand on a shared surface, can reveal more than words ever could. Micro gestures are powerful because they bypass conscious inhibition. They speak the language of desire directly through the body, giving away longing even when someone insists they are indifferent. By tuning into these nuances, one can begin to perceive the hidden cravings that others attempt to hide, uncovering a layer of attraction that operates quietly, persistently, and unmistakably if you know how to look for it. Consistent attention and curiosity are some of the clearest yet most understated indicators that someone secretly craves your presence, and they operate on both subtle and persistent levels. This is not the attention that comes from politeness or casual interest. This is the kind of engagement that threads through every interaction, whether it's a brief conversation, a social media exchange, or even just being in the same space. When someone is secretly drawn to you, their mind frequently returns to you, even when there is no immediate reason to think about you, and that return manifests in observable behavior. They ask questions that go beyond superficial conversation, showing a genuine curiosity about your thoughts, your experiences, and your feelings. And they remember the small details you mention in passing, sometimes bringing them up later in ways that feel almost uncanny. This attention is not performative, it is persistent, and it often appears in ways that seem spontaneous, but are actually driven by a deep psychological pull. You might notice that they check in on your well being, respond promptly and thoughtfully to messages, or show interest in activities and interests that matter to you. Subconsciously, this is their mind signaling that you are important, that your world is worth understanding, and that proximity, emotional, intellectual, or even physical, is desired. What makes consistent attention and curiosity especially revealing is that it is rarely forced. It cannot be fully faked for long without betraying itself through micro expressions, tone of voice, or timing. Someone who truly craves connection will naturally find ways to be present, attentive, and engaged even when life is busy or distractions are abundant because the attraction is internally motivated. It is this ongoing engagement, this repeated reaching toward your life in meaningful ways that sets apart mere politeness from authentic longing. And it is a sign that your presence triggers something deeper than casual interest. In essence, when someone is secretly drawn to you, they will demonstrate it consistently, across contexts, and with a subtle intensity that communicates desire and investment without ever needing to be declared. This steady, underlying curiosity becomes a silent but powerful signal that craving exists, and it often leaves a lasting impression, even when it is overlooked by those not attuned to it. Subtle testing of boundaries is one of the most fascinating and revealing signs that someone secretly craves you because it operates on a level that blends playfulness with psychological probing, revealing desire without direct confession. This behavior is rarely overtly aggressive or confrontational. Instead, it emerges as teasing, gentle challenges, or provocations that seem minor on the surface but carry a deeper emotional weight. When someone is secretly drawn to you, they may test how far they can engage without triggering discomfort using humor, irony, or unexpected questions to gauge your reactions and understand your emotional limits. These boundary tests are not about manipulation in a negative sense. They are a subconscious strategy for connection, a way to create intimacy and gauge compatibility. For example, they might lightly challenge your opinions during a conversation, question your choices in a teasing tone, or playfully break minor social conventions to see how you respond. Their goal is not conflict, it is observation. They are quietly mapping your emotional landscape to understand how you respond under different circumstances. The fascinating part is that these tests often occur with a mix of nervousness and anticipation, signaling that the person is invested in your reaction because they care about the impression they leave and the connection they can cultivate. Even when the testing seems minor or easily dismissible, it often carries a subtle undercurrent of attraction. The risk of pushing a boundary heightens emotional intensity, which is naturally stimulating in a psychological sense. These behaviors create a dynamic interplay, an unspoken dialogue where curiosity, desire, and engagement converge, and they allow someone to communicate interest indirectly while respecting the unspoken limits of social interaction. By observing these micro tests, one can detect a pattern of engagement that signals hidden craving, because someone who is indifferent rarely takes the time or emotional energy to experiment with your boundaries, especially in ways that require both attentiveness and subtlety. Ultimately, these gentle boundary tests function as a hidden language of desire, revealing an underlying attraction that is as cautious as it is persistent, offering a window into the psychological mechanisms of longing and connection that often go unnoticed by the untrained eye. Emotional mirroring is one of the most unconscious yet powerful indicators that someone secretly craves you because it reflects a deep psychological attunement to your inner state without a word being spoken. When someone is drawn to you, they often begin to mirror your expressions, gestures, tone of voice, or even your pace of speech almost instinctively, creating a subtle echo of your behavior that fosters connection and intimacy. This is not imitation in a deliberate sense. It happens naturally, driven by the brain's mirror neurons, which are responsible for empathy and social bonding. For example, if you smile, they might smile back slightly before they even realize it. Or if you lean forward while talking, they adjust their posture to match yours. Even smaller nuances, like the rhythm of your laughter, the emphasis in your sentences, or the way you gesture with your hands, can be unconsciously reflected in their behavior. Emotional mirroring serves a dual purpose. It creates a sense of rapport and familiarity that feels comforting, and it signals attraction because people are naturally drawn to those whose behavior resonates with their own. This mirroring also extends to moods and emotional energy. If you're excited or animated, they may become more animated themselves. If you're thoughtful or contemplative, their tone softens, their gestures slow, and they mirror your emotional cadence. The fascinating part is that this happens often without conscious awareness. The mirroring is a silent language of connection that reveals desire long before words can articulate it. Someone who is indifferent does not expend energy adjusting their emotional state to match yours. They simply exist alongside you without this subtle attunement. When emotional mirroring is consistent, it becomes a compelling sign that craving exists because it reflects a willingness to be psychologically and emotionally aligned with you. It is a signal that your presence affects them deeply, shaping their expressions, behaviors, and moods in ways that communicate attraction, trust, and investment without ever needing to verbalize it. In short, emotional mirroring is a quiet yet unmistakable reflection of hidden desire, a body and mind level signal that someone's attention and longing are intimately tied to you. Strategic vulnerability is a deeply revealing sign that someone secretly craves you because it involves selectively lowering their emotional defenses in ways that invite connection, trust, and intimacy without overtly declaring interest. When someone is attracted to you, they are often motivated, consciously or unconsciously, to create a sense of closeness by letting you see parts of themselves that are typically private or guarded. This might look like sharing personal stories, expressing insecurities, or revealing past experiences in a way that feels intentional yet natural. The key is that it is not indiscriminate. They are careful about what, how much, and when they reveal, tailoring their openness to the moments where you are present and attentive. This behavior is psychologically significant because vulnerability is inherently risky. Sharing inner thoughts or weaknesses exposes one to judgment or rejection. Choosing to take that risk with you signals a deep level of investment and a subconscious desire to create a bond. You might notice that they confide in you about challenges, dreams, or fears that they rarely discuss with others, or they seek your perspective on decisions that matter to them, implicitly signaling that your opinion carries weight. Strategic vulnerability also often comes paired with subtle cues of monitoring your response. A slight pause to gauge your reaction, a careful tone that tests receptivity, or a tentative smile that seeks reassurance. This combination of disclosure and observation is a form of silent communication, showing that they want to connect and that your acceptance matters to them. Unlike casual sharing, this vulnerability feels purposeful. It is designed to create trust, deepen emotional engagement, and signal attraction without the need for explicit words. People who are indifferent rarely invest energy in opening up selectively or observing how you respond to their disclosures. By noticing these moments of strategic vulnerability, you can recognize a hidden craving that operates below the surface, revealing a desire not just for companionship, but for psychological intimacy, a connection that is carefully nurtured, subtly expressed, and deeply meaningful. Protective instincts are one of the most subtle yet unmistakable indicators that someone secretly craves you because they reveal a desire to care for and prioritize your well-being even without overt acknowledgement. This protection is not about controlling or overstepping boundaries. It manifests in small, thoughtful behaviors that demonstrate concern, attentiveness, and a subconscious drive to keep you safe, physically, emotionally, or socially. For instance, they might quietly intervene when someone else criticizes or challenges you, offer help before you even ask, or pay attention to situations that could cause you discomfort, often without making a show of it. These actions are rarely calculated. They arise naturally from a sense of attachment and investment in your welfare. Beyond overt acts of assistance, protective instincts can appear in subtler ways. Checking in to make sure you're okay, remembering important details that safeguard your plans or schedule, or even giving advice framed as concern rather than instruction. Psychologically, this behavior signals that your presence has a strong emotional impact on them, enough to trigger instinctual caregiving responses that are typically reserved for people we value deeply or feel emotionally connected to. Someone who is indifferent or detached does not expend energy monitoring your well-being or anticipating challenges that might affect you. Protective instincts also often carry micro expressions of care, a softening of the eyes when they notice you stressed, a reassuring tone in conversation, or a subtle alignment with your emotional state that communicates support without words. These instincts act as a form of silent communication, a nonverbal way of signaling attachment, attraction, and craving, showing that your needs and safety matter on a level that transcends conscious thought. When combined with other cues such as attention, curiosity, and micro gestures, protective behaviors become a powerful indicator that someone is emotionally invested and quietly craving your presence. They are a form of covert devotion, signaling that your well-being is intertwined with their desire to connect, care, and maintain closeness, making this hidden longing tangible even when it is never explicitly verbalized. Prioritization in small ways is one of the most revealing signs that someone secretly craves you because it shows a consistent, often unconscious allocation of attention, time, and energy toward you that goes beyond casual interest. This is not about grand gestures or dramatic displays. It is the quiet, thoughtful ways someone makes you a subtle focal point in their daily life. They may adjust their schedule to coincide with yours, remember and act on details that matter to you, or go out of their way to include you in experiences without drawing attention to the effort. Even the simplest actions, sending a message to check in, noticing when you're stressed and offering a small form of support, or remembering preferences you casually mention, signal that you occupy a meaningful space in their mental and emotional landscape. Psychologically, this prioritization reflects a craving for connection because it demonstrates that your presence, well-being, and attention hold intrinsic value to them. Their behavior is motivated not by obligation or social expectation, but by an underlying desire to maintain closeness. What makes this sign particularly telling is its consistency. It happens repeatedly across contexts and often without conscious recognition, revealing a persistent investment that someone who is indifferent would not maintain. Prioritization also communicates subtle hierarchy in their attention. They are effectively signaling that, among competing demands, you matter enough to influence their choices, however minor. This can manifest in seemingly trivial ways, like remembering a favorite coffee order, sending a link to something they know will interest you, or making space in their plans to spend time with you, all of which collectively reveal a pattern of hidden craving. Unlike overt declarations of interest, these small prioritizations build a quiet but undeniable web of connection that demonstrates both care and desire. When observed alongside micro gestures, emotional mirroring, and protective instincts, prioritization paints a comprehensive picture of someone whose attention and energy are consistently drawn to you, revealing a craving that operates below the surface, expressed through subtle but meaningful acts that affirm your significance in their life.